Reduced braking performance is never a fun problem to run into, especially when you're trying to bring the vehicle to a stop. So on today's episode, we're going to look at some of the common problems that I see on these 2015 to 2020 GMC Yukons. There's already several good tutorials on how to replace these brake vacuum pumps out there on YouTube already, so I didn't show it on this one, especially since when you have a four-wheel drive version, there just isn't as much room for a camera. You can't see quite everything that you need to get to. So I've already got it replaced. I've got the old one right here. We're going to take the back plate off and we're going to take a look inside this pump. So removing those T25s that sit all around the edge, pulling off this back plate, you can see the carnage that's occurred here. This pump definitely looks like it's original to the vehicle, which would explain why there's all the debris in there and why I suddenly lost brake pressure. So I'm seeing that there's quite a few people who have run into this same problem. It's not too big of a deal to change. On the four-wheel drive version, the pump is about $225. And it's probably 2 hours of labor for a beginner to an intermediate mechanic. If you have a two-wheel drive version, it's probably about an hour to replace it. You have a little bit more room and a little bit easier access to it. Now that we've taken a look at the pump, let's get the vehicle up in the air and take a look at whatever else this GMC might need. Alright, so I went ahead and removed the cover that normally sits here covering up these underbody panels, and the first thing that I can see is on this transmission fluid line. I've already got a couple of drips. So these are the transmission fluid cooler lines. They both run from the transmission to the radiator. Not too big of a problem to replace. Again, if you have a two-wheel drive version, it's a bit easier just because you have a bit more room, but it's not a major problem. I will be doing that in a future video. Now coming back over here, you can see that I have replaced the vacuum pump. Looking underneath, everything looks nice and dry. It doesn't look like it's leaking, so that's a good sign. The rest of the engine looks okay. Belts look to be in good shape. Not seeing any big problems there. Axle boots are intact, inner and outer. Struts appear to be nice and dry. They're not leaking. Brake pads are in good shape, still am above 50% life left on those. Coming over here, boots are in shape, nothing leaking on that side. Strut looks nice and dry. Looking around underneath here, not seeing any big problems. No leaks coming from the engine, which is always good to see. Maybe some seepage from a previous leak from that sensor. Nothing too terrible, nothing actively dripping down low. A little bit of seepage coming from the front axle. So everything underneath looks to be nice and dry, not having any major leaks other than those transmission fluid lines. Let's move back. Transfer case is nice and dry, nothing leaking there. Electrical plug on the transmission is dry. Not seeing any transmission fluid leaks. Moving back. Everything's nice and dry back here as well. I'm not seeing really any rust. There's a little bit of surface rust around some of the edges, but everything looks to be in pretty good shape. Brake controller there. Exhaust, everything's intact. Little bit of surface rust, nothing too terrible. Springs. And keeping in mind, this does have rear air struts, because if you have a trailer for towing, it can adjust the level. Everything looks to be okay there. Rear brakes are in good condition. So other than those transmission cooler lines, everything looks to be in pretty good shape. I will be going through and replacing the front and rear differential gear oil, and I will also be replacing the transfer case fluid as well. So for now, that'll do it for today. those are the common problems that I'm seeing on these Yukons, those transmission cooler lines and that vacuum pump. I'll keep you updated as I go along. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.